here waiting to go to a doctor's appointment to go to my OBGYN, and I thought that I would do a quick video on a couple of topics on signs and symptoms that you may see of cervical cancer, HPV, and the big ovary question, which for me is a major topic on my mind right now. So signs and symptoms of cervical cancer. If you do a quick Google search, you're going to see all kinds of things come up. I'm not a medical professional, so I recommend, if you suspect something is going on, if you're having abnormal bleeding, if you're having pain after intercourse, spotting in between periods, things like that, that you Google and go talk to your doctor. This part of the conversation is going to be brief for me because I didn't have any signs or symptoms. I have always had normal PAPs, did not have any classic signs or issues associated with cervical cancer like abnormal bleeding, pain after intercourse. There was just nothing that I could attribute to this. Of course, now I'm going back in my mind and back in history trying to think of every little possible thing I may have missed and anything I could have done, and of course none of that really matters now, and I truly don't think there was anyway. So I just want folks to be aware that there can be signs and symptoms leading up to an abnormal pap smear and cervical cancer diagnosis, or there may not be, which was the case for me. So a little bit scarier, but all the more reason to continue having your PAPs on an annual basis as opposed to the 3 years that is recommended according to insurance guidelines and national cervical cancer guidelines. Don't follow it. Go every year. HPV. So I was diagnosed with a high strain of HPV. I believe it was 16. 16 and 18 are the two biggies that can cause cervical cancer down the line. And I was diagnosed with 16 on a normal PAP. I didn't have any cellular changes at that time. And I was told, I think I said this in a previous video, I was told that my body would likely absorb it and we'll just check, which is what happened as far as I understood. I also know now, though, that HPV can reoccur in your lifetime. It can lie dormant for many, many years, and it can come back. Now, in my particular situation, I actually don't know yet if I'm HPV positive. It's very, very likely that I am, and it's actually the reason why I'm going to the doctor today, because for my own purposes, I want to make sure that this is what's called a usual type adenocarcinoma. There are other kinds of adenocarcinomas. They're much more rare, but they do exist, and they're much harder to treat and have much poorer prognosis. So I want to make sure for myself that this is an HPV-related adenocarcinoma. And typically what happens when you get a pap smear that's abnormal is that you'll have an HPV workup. What I did not know, and this is an education point for women, what I did not know is that I didn't have an HPV test at every pap smear. I thought it was standard and routine, that was just part of the package, and then when I got my normal results back, that meant that I was HPV free. No clue that wasn't the case. I talked to my doctor afterwards, my primary doctor, and she told me that no, it's her clinical practice to only do HPV testing if an abnormal pap comes back. So in the hubbub of this whole situation, because everything has happened really quickly, I got moved from my primary care doctor to an OB-GYN really, really quickly, and then to a gyne oncologist really quickly. I haven't had an HPV test yet. And in some respects, according to statistics, it doesn't really matter. Well over 90% of all adenocarcinomas are HPV related, but I want to know. It's my body and I want to know. And I want it for my records too, because going forward, I'll have to have very, very, very regular pap smears and testing, and HPV testing will be part of that to make sure that I'm getting rid of it, and that getting rid of my reproductive organs helped take care of that situation. So more to come there. We'll see if I am. I guess it's kind of a weird thing to hope for, but hopefully I am, because like I said, other adenocarcinomas are much trickier. So the big topic that I wanted to talk about today, and that's really weighing on me right now, is ovaries. Yay! Ovaries are the powerhouse, the epicenter of all women's bodies. They provide hormonal regulation. The amount of benefits that hormones provide to a woman is immeasurable. And losing them when you're not supposed to lose them presents a fair amount of risk to women throughout their lifespan. So, kind of wrapped into this situation, this ovary question, and the question is whether or not I will keep them, is what stage I'm at. I don't fully know what stage I am. I've been told that I'm at a stage 1, but there are multiple substagings within 1 before you get to 2. And each of those substagings have different ways to treat and different therapies that are attached after a hysterectomy, like for example radiation and chemo, and then other things as well. So I don't know that because I haven't had an MRI, which is another kind of point of contention for me. I did ask both my OBGYN and my gynecologist for an MRI, and they both felt like I didn't need it because they felt like we were really early. And so the spread theoretically is minimal, but also because they feel like it's an unnecessary test in this situation because we know the outcome. We know that I'm going to be having a radical hysterectomy regardless, and so why, spend thousands of dollars on another procedure? Which I kind of understand, but not knowing my exact staging has been really, really hard for me, because attached with that, if I were a 1A, for example, there are different recommendations that go along with that than 1B. And there are different stats that go along with that than 1B. So in my mind, it's very, very hard to come to a place of somewhat peace about where I'm at and what the next steps are going to be until I know that. And I may not know it until after final pathology. I am going to go see my gynecologist again next Monday, and I'm pushing again for the MRI. I don't know if I'll be able to even get in and get results by the time that I have surgery, but I'm going to try again because, again, it's my body and I am my own best advocate. So kind of back to the ovary thing that does tie in. Research shows, I've been doing nothing but research. Like every night, all I do is read peer-reviewed literature. But lots of research shows that 1A carcinomas can pretty much unequivocally keep their ovaries, have no risk, very little, minimal risk of recurrence and metastasis in the ovaries. And it kind of goes up and up from there. When you get into the 1B territory, there's about a 3 to 4% chance of metastasis to the ovaries. Why does that worry me? Because that sounds pretty low. It worries me because ovarian cancer has always scared me, number one. And it scared me because it is very, very hard to detect and it's very hard to treat. And it's typically not found until stage 3 or 4. Most often, women that worry about ovarian cancer are women that have the BRCA genes, have a family history of breast cancers and ovarian cancers. So then you start getting to territory like Angelina Jolie, who had her ovaries removed preventively, to in the hopes of preventing ovarian cancer down the line. Of course, she does have the BRCA gene. I have no way of knowing that I do, but it's very, very doubtful that I do. I have no family history of, as far as I know, I have no family history of ovarian cancer. So the stats for the general population of getting ovarian cancer, if you have no family history, is about 1.4%. Pretty low. And that's what my OBGYN posed to me. She asked me, well, would you take your ovaries if you weren't going through this? Would you come in here and electively have your ovaries removed? The answer is obviously no. However, as I mentioned, the risk goes up from there steadily until you get to, if I were in the 2 range, stage 2 range, they would probably take them automatically anyway. So this would kind of be a moot point. And all of this question may be a moot point anyway, because when she opens me up, if she sees anything that she doesn't like, she's going to take them regardless. And if I have to have radiation, it will likely kill my ovaries anyway. So some of this I'm probably worrying about a little more than I need to. But it's a big question, because if I take both the ovaries, then that puts me into early menopause. I'm 36. I'm a good 15 years away from natural menopause. Early menopause without hormone replacement therapy or bioidentical hormones is extraordinarily risky. Lots and lots of research shows that morbidity increases dramatically for women who go into early menopause without hormone replacement. We're talking like upwards of 50% more risk of stroke and cardiovascular disease, things like that. Things that you don't want to mess around with, right? So that's not really an option for me, not going on hormone replacement therapy. The other option is to keep both. Okay, am I willing to live with any risk whatsoever? And that's a very, very personal question that I haven't come to an answer on. A lot of people are going to have opinions. Every woman I've talked to has an opinion. My boyfriend has an opinion. But ultimately it comes down to me and what I'm willing to live with, what risk I can take. And I'm not sure yet. And the other option that I'm looking at, that I am also going to talk to my gynecologist about when I see her next week, is keeping one. Ovaries function a lot like kidneys. You can lose one and the other one kicks in, and you don't really need two to produce full levels of hormonal regulation. So that for me is a potential option that I'm looking at. That might be the best of both worlds for me to feel like, oh, I've reduced in some capacity that even though it's small, that risk, that 4 to 5% risk of ovarian metastasis. I don't actually know if that's true, actually, if it actually works like that. But right now in my head, that seems nice. And I still get to keep my ovarian functions and don't have to go on hormone replacement therapy and don't enter early menopause. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't have an answer yet. I have up until the morning of surgery to make that decision. I don't want to wait that long because I need an answer within myself before I go into that OR. But it's a tough decision, and it's a decision that I never thought in a million years I'd be presented with. So I'm figuring it out, and I'm doing what I need to do to help myself. So that's what's important. But I gotta head out, go to my doc appointment. But I hope that you all found this useful. And as always, please feel free to share to your larger communities. I know that there are women out there who are going through the same exact question that I am alone. So feel free to share. All right, bye everybody.